enthusiast. Welcome to The Metal Dude Abides. Today we're going to be taking a look at the top 100 heavy metal songs list made by the Rolling Stones. Now, I had a couple of ideas on how to critique this list. One was just to make my own list. But I felt like at this point, having my personal favorite songs in the top 100 list wouldn't be all that interesting. Instead, what I decided to do with this list is to go through each and every song, and with each and every song, I have three choices. One, I can throw out the artist and the song. Two, I can keep the artist but select a different song. Or three, keep the artist and the song. Now, this has the benefit of me not being able to just load up this list with 10 favorite songs from my 4 or 5 different favorite bands. The other thing I want to point out here, and it's a big caveat, is as I'm going through the Rolling Stones list, and I'm doing this critique, what I've already realized about this list is it has hard rock and heavy metal songs, even though the list says it's heavy metal. Now, this is always a controversial, topic when it comes to heavy metal. Hard rock and heavy metal can sometimes be a very close-knit community. And so I'm not going to make a lot of, tough choices around this and do the strictest of rules. This list will contain both hard rock and heavy metal songs. There's no way around it. Unless I just want to completely throw out the entire Rolling Stones list, which would defeat the purpose of this exercise. So without further ado, let's get to the list and start off with the first 10 songs on the top 100 list. Coming in at number 100 on the Rolling Stones list is Venom, Welcome to Hell. Now, there's no doubt Venom was a very influential band. Hell, they invented the term black metal. But there's a band I like a little bit better out of the new wave of British heavy metal by the name of the Tigers of Pantang. Now, what did the Tigers of Pantang have that Venom didn't? Well, 2 words. John freaking Sykes. One of the greatest guitarists and one of my personal favorite guitarists in the entire heavy metal genre. John Sykes never really settles down with one band, but wherever he goes, he takes a really good band and takes them to that next level, makes them a great band. John joins up with the Tigers of Pantang, and they do a couple of albums. The first one they do is an album called Spellbound, coming out in 1981, and the opening track is the song I'm going to nominate today. It's called Ganglands. Now, there's 2 types of guitarists in heavy metal. One is the really heavy riff guy. Think Tony Iommi. The other is more the speedy, flashy, scorching fast solos. Really take one, but I'll say Michael Schenker as an example of that. John Sykes is brilliant in that he combines both techniques. He plays really heavy riffs really fast. And so in this song, this is one of those classic examples of where John Sykes has a great crunchy riff played at high speeds. It's a fantastic song. Now, the new wave of British heavy metal had one major problem, a flaw, if you will. There were too many bands coming out at once, and so there was a lot of competition for airplay, and so a lot of bands kind of got lost in the shuffle. Tigers of Pantang should have been much bigger than they were, and I think it's time that we give them their long overdue recognition. And we do so by putting them on the list at number 100, Tigers of Pantang, Ganglands. Coming in at number 99 is Crowbar, When Planets Collide. Now, I'm going to replace Crowbar and replace him with a band by the name of Beartooth. Beartooth is a bit of an oddity band for me. There's a lot of bands out there that have a few singles here and there that are pretty good, but have no depth. The oddity about Beartooth is I don't really like their more popular songs, but I always seem to be gravitated to their deep tracks, the songs buried in the albums. Um, and for today's list, I'm going to pick the deepest cut of them all. Now you say, wait a minute, how can you say this is the deepest cut? Well, it's the deepest cut because it almost didn't make the album entirely. So the story goes, Beartooth is ready to release their breakthrough album. Welcome to the Big Leagues, Beartooth. They come out in 2016 with the album Aggression. Pretty good hit for them. But as they're getting ready to release this album, they left off the song Rock is Dead. And the producer came up to him and said, guys, what are you doing? This song is fantastic. They decided to leave it in, and the rest is history. I love this song, Rock is Dead. I was obsessed with this song. I put it on every playlist. I probably drove everybody crazy. I played this song to death. Now, I can see why Beartooth left the song off, to tell you the truth. It is a little bit of a departure from their music in that it's a little bit more, kind of has that kind of punky attitude, aggression kind of feel to it, which is not really Beartooth's style. But let me tell you, they made the right call on keeping the song on the album. And to celebrate that, we're going to go ahead and put it on the list today at number 99. Coming in at number 99, Beartooth, Rock is Dead. Coming in at 98 on the Rolling Stones list is Power Trip with Executioner's Tax, Swing of the Axe. Now, I like Power Trip. Really good band. This album, Nightmare Logic, really one of the better albums that came out that year. Kind of a throwback to the 80s and 90s thrash metal movement. I actually prefer a song of theirs that comes out a couple years later called Hornet's Nest. Now, it never officially got on an album, I don't believe. I think it was only released as a single, which is probably why it doesn't get the recognition it deserves. But when you go in to look at Power Trip, I highly recommend the album Nightmare Logic and the single Hornet's Nest. However, I decided at this time not to keep them in the top 100 because there is a band, again, that I like a little bit more. And that band is called In Flames. Now, timing in life is everything. And I was just talking to a friend of mine who we were just discussing what bands that they were into. And he happened to mention that one of his favorite bands was In Flames. And I looked through their catalog, found some pretty good songs, but didn't think much of it. Well, not a few weeks later, I happened to notice that In Flames got nominated for a Grammy Award for the song we're going to talk about today, I Am Above. Went out and checked it out, and I fell in love with this song. It is a fantastic song, and, typical of the Grammys, sure, it was nominated that year, but it absolutely should have won as well. It was by far the best track. I love this song. It is far and away the best In Flames song that I've ever heard. Really took, I think, the band to a different level. It's still a very heavy song, but it's got a little bit of a commercial appeal to it as well. So highly recommend checking out from 2019, our number 98 song, In Flames, I Am Above. Now, it's never a good idea to insult the bands on the list, because let's face it, I have a whole group of heavy metal people watching this video, and I might be insulting your favorite band. But I have to say that at 97, Rolling Stone puts the Dillinger Escape Plan 43% burnt. Sorry, fans of this group, I just can't get behind Dillinger Escape Plan. I've been told, that maybe they're like a fusion between heavy metal and jazz, but it just doesn't have any flow to me. Very choppy. I can see why people like it. It's very aggressive. It's very heavy, but it's not my cup of tea. So I'm going to replace them with one of my favorite bands of all time, Armored Saint. And the song that I picked Rain of Fire. Now, Armored Saint's one of those bands that it was very hard for me to pick a song, even to pick an era of Armored Saint where I really thought that the group stood out more than the others. I contemplated several songs, but I chose Rain of Fire just because I think the production on that album and the depth of the sound on that album really stand out to me. One of the things that can sometimes happen, especially in like the mid 80s, is the production seemed to be a little high and kind of hit on the mid-range and high range and really left out the bottom. This album really brings in a nice production where you get that nice bass, nice drum feel, along with the great vocals of John Bush and the great guitar work on this album. Now, this album, again, is one of those albums, didn't really do a lot commercially. May have had a little bit to do with the fact that Armored Saint had had a tragedy right before this. Their original guitarist, Dave Pritchard, had passed away. So there was a gap in time between Raising Fear and then subsequently this album, Symbol of Salvation. It doesn't come out till 1991, and maybe a few people had lost track of them. If you were one of those people who kind of lost track of Armored Saint, go back, get Symbol of Salvation, and listen to this song that we're putting in number 97 on the list, Rain of Fire by Armored Saint. Coming in at number 96, Girls School with Yeah Right. Now, I just got through insulting Dillinger Escape Plan, and now I'm going back to back. I'm not really a fan of Girls School. Let me tell you a little story. When I was a young metalhead, you bought albums, sound unheard, sight unseen, right? You went to the record store and you took a chance based on, like, does the album look like it's going to be heavy? Maybe you read an article in Hit Parade or Circus Magazine and say, hey, they're really talking up this band. And so I had heard about this all-female heavy metal band that was supposed to be really good. And so I went out and bought their album, Screaming Blue Murder. Took it home, put it on the old turntable, and didn't like it. Don't know what to say. Made me mad. I plunked down my hard-earned money, and I got a lemon. And, back in the day, putting enough scratch together to buy an album, if you bought one that you didn't like, it really sucked. So you really held a grudge against that band. So I've held a grudge against Girls School for, now 4 decades because I wasted my money that many, many moons ago. So instead, I'm taking them out and I'm putting in Motionless in White. Motionless in White, many people might think of as just kind of a heavy metal emo band, but there's a lot of depth to Motionless in White. They have a lot of varied sounds and songs. And from the 2012 Infamous album, they put out a scathing political commentary. AMERICA goes after the politicians in Washington, D.C., all the way out to the West Coast, and talks about Hollywood and the record companies, all of it. All of the corruption. And, at the end of the day, I'm a sucker for a good scathing political commentary. So I love this song, I love this album, and I love Motionless in White, and they come in at number 96 with AMERICA. You may have started to ask yourself, is this guy going to pick any bands or any songs from the Rolling Stones list? Well, your ship has come in. Because coming in at number 95 on the Rolling Stones' best heavy metal songs of all time is Davidian by Machine Head. Davidian, coming from their debut album in 1994, details the horrors and slaughter that occurred in Waco, Texas. A really good song, but I'm going to go for something a little more recent. Machine Head was one of those bands that I thought was a good band, an okay band, but they really found their stride later in their career. In 2007, they had an excellent album called The Blackening. In fact, it not only did it get rave reviews, it was actually nominated and won a few magazines' Album of the Year. That's pretty high recognition. So 4 years later, they followed up that album with another banger called Unto the Locust. And the song that we're going to nominate today comes from that album, and it's also called The Locust. This is by far my favorite Machine Head song, and I think it really encapsulated a really peak period for Machine Head. You take these two albums and you can hold them up against just about anything else in the catalog, in my humble opinion. Rolling Stones went for something. Wow, I'll do the quick math here. 17 years earlier, I'm going for something a little bit more recent, and I think it is their absolute best song. Machine Head can be a little inconsistent in my opinion, and so if you've listened to Machine Head but haven't listened to those particular albums, give Machine Head a fresh look. I think they had a real standout here with these two albums. So coming in at number 95, Machine Head, Locust. Number 94 on the list is Helmet with In the Meantime. I like this song. I like that album. I bought it back in the day, listened to it a lot, but I don't believe that it belongs anywhere near the top 100. Instead, I'm going to go old school. I'm going to go all the way back to the 1970s. The band is UFO. UFO was sporting a brand new guitarist by the name of Michael Schenker. Michael Schenker, of course, famously began his career with the Scorpions with his older brother Rudolph. And then UFO said, whoa, look at this kid. Look at this talented kid. And so they poached him, and he went on to put a string of fantastic albums, chock full of radio-friendly metal hits for the better part of the decade. So the song we're going to pick is from their 1977 album, Lights Out. Lights Out in London. Now, a little tip. 2 years later, in 1979, UFO put out Strangers in the Night, one of the best live albums you'll ever hear. One of those monumental heavy metal live albums, right up there with Kiss Alive, in my opinion. And in there they do Lights Out. Only it's Lights Out Chicago, because that's where they recorded the live album. If you like the studio version of this song, you'll love the live version of this song. They really bring a life to it that's even better than the studio. So I'm going to recommend the 1979 version of this, but either way, the song is fantastic. The reason I picked this, because there is a lot of UFO songs that I could have selected. I feel like this is an underrated song as far as the influence that it had moving into the 80s. I tend to talk about the heavy metal gallop, that kind of pacing that's made famous by Iron Maiden, for instance. This is one of those first songs that I really heard that heavy metal gallop. I think a lot of people took this song and used this song as kind of a base for, hey, this is how you pace a good heavy metal song. So not only do I think it's a fantastic song, I think it's an influential song as well. So coming in at 94, UFO, Lights Out in London. Coming in at 93 is Cannibal Corpse with Hammer Smashed Face. Now, Cannibal Corpse probably claim to fame, in my opinion, is they were in one of the funniest movies of all time, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Unfortunately for Cannibal Corpse, their scene was cut in final editing, and they are going to suffer the same fate on my list, cut from the Rolling Stones list and replaced with one of my favorite new bands, Amon Amarth. And in fact, for this video, I'm going to make Amon Amarth our spotlight artist. the reason I'm going to do that is similar to the band we just got through reviewing, UFO. Amon Amarth has so many great hits. So being that they're in the artist spotlight, what I want from you, the listener, is to put down your favorite Amon Amarth song in the comments below. Help us choose. Right now, our family is completely split 4 ways into what their favorite song is. So, Mama didn't raise no dummy. I'm going to go with my wife's favorite Amon Amarth song, Embrace the Endless Ocean. Embrace the Endless Ocean is a bit of a departure for Amon Amarth in that as they play their melodic Viking death metal, most of their songs do have to do with war, conquest, a lot of, Norse mythology. But this song is a very somber, sad, dramatic song as the Vikings returning home from a battle are sailing home and realize that they're not going to reach the shores. They're not going to ever see their homeland again. And they're struggling with the concept of their mortality and that they are going to die on that ocean. This is going to be their final burial place. Very dramatic, like I say, very somber tune. So that's what we're going to go with today. But again, very interested in hearing your opinions below. Number 93, Amon Amarth, Embrace the Endless Ocean. Coming in at number 92, drum roll please, Warlock, All We Are, for the 1987 Triumph and Agony album. I'm going to keep the artist and the song. Now, I'll be honest with you. If I were making my own top 100 list, I'm not sure it would make the list. However, who am I to kick Doro Pesh off of any list? Rolling Stones puts it in there. We're going to keep it in there. And I do love this song. And this was my introduction to Warlock. For those of you who are old school, they put out a video for this, and Doro Pesh is striding over cars on the interstate in a very apocalyptic type of scene, while amplifiers are blasting in the background. Very iconic video, and like I said, my introduction to Warlock and to Doro Pesh, who has, of course, been putting out great music for decades now. So we're going to keep this song on the list. Coming in at number 92, Warlock, All We Are. And finally, the last spot we'll be reviewing for this video, coming in at number 91, is Dream Theater, Pull Me Under. I'm going to keep the song and the artist. 2 in a row for Rolling Stones. Dream Theater is one of the most influential bands, again, in the last 3 decades. Tremendous musicianship. I'm always kind of surprised that Pull Me Under found its way onto radio and video success. Normally, longer songs, 6-8 minute songs, are usually not the type of songs that become hits for a band. And of course, I always laugh at Dream Theater's sense of humor. They always, put out, instead of their greatest hits album, their greatest hit album, which is their one and only hit, if you will. Because again, Dream Theater doesn't really fit the radio format. They have very long, progressive tracks, lots of cool instrumentation, and this is, kind of that one song that found its way, and it was at the beginning of their career and really launched Dream Theater. So it was good that they had this song, because it led to, again, a legion of fans who have been enjoying their music for 3 decades. So as a salute to them, I'm going to keep them in the list, and also as a tribute to Dream Theater, who instituted a rule in our family on family trips when we're going around the car selecting songs. We call it the Dream Theater rule. You can't pick a Dream Theater song because it's like 3 times longer than the songs everybody else is picking. Uh, so, at number 91, Dream Theater, Pull Me Under. And that concludes our list for today. But keep in mind, we've only started to scratch the surface. We've only been through the first 10 songs. We're going to be back with 90 through 81 next week. So until then, this is the Metal Dude signing off. Have a great week.